Welcome to the Passive Mobile Home Park Investing Podcast with your host, Andrew Keel. This is the podcast where you can get the education you need to invest 100% passively in the highly profitable niche of mobile home parks.
Sam Zell, the self-made billionaire and largest owner of mobile home parks in the world, wrote the following in his book, Am I Being Too Subtle? I am probably more comfortable with risk than most people. That's because I do as much as I can to understand it. To me, risk-taking rests on the ability to see all the variables and then identify the ones that will make or break you. I love that. And Mr. Zell is notorious for absorbing as much content as possible. And he does so for a simple reason. Every bit of knowledge he can absorb has the potential to reduce some degree of risk down the line for him in one of his many business ventures. This podcast has been created so you can do the same. We aim to reduce your risk when you invest passively in mobile home parks by giving you the education you need to be successful. My name is Andrew Keel, and I'll be your host. I currently own and actively operate 20 mobile home parks across 8 states, and I've passively invested in another 1,500 lots, with more in process. I'm proud to say that we are a top 100 owner of mobile home parks in the world. I got my start in manufactured housing by flipping individual mobile homes in the Central Florida area, which is where I'm from, and that was via the Lonnie Scruggs model, if you're familiar, with his book, Deals on Wheels. I'm a boots-on-the-ground operator, very hands-on, and I eat, breathe, and sleep mobile home parks. I also own a mobile home transport and installation company based out of St. Louis, Missouri. And on a side note, I'm currently training for Ironman Florida, which is in November 2020. You might ask yourself, Andrew, why are you doing this show? Well, number one, I love the mobile home park business and the financial freedom it has brought my family. So I want to share the golden goose, if you will, with those interested in creating cash flow for their families. Number two, there is currently no other podcast similar to this one, focused solely on passive investing tips. The other podcasts in the space, of which I'm a huge fan, focus primarily on the active investing side. So this podcast will add value to investors by being different in that aspect. Number three, I want to learn more about the business through teaching it. I certainly don't know everything, and I plan on interviewing others in the space and learning alongside you through that process. Number four, I want a place that I can send new investors to give them a baseline education on passive investing in this asset class, so they are ultimately knowledgeable and more confident going into their first deal. Number five, I also offer passive investments for folks interested in investing in mobile home parks. That's done through my firm, Keel Team Capital. I believe that I'm the best person to host this podcast because I'm in the business daily, and I understand the intricacies this business requires. I know what items present the most risk and which are things you can more than likely get comfortable with. I also run investor relations in our company, and I know what questions investors ask me over and over again. So I want to answer those and clear them up on this podcast. Finally, as a passive investor myself, there are certain things I look for in every deal to make sure it fits with my investment goals in terms of diversification, cash flow, and the time frame for the return of my initial capital. I believe that those reasons make me the perfect person to host this podcast. Here is the game plan for the podcast. We have launched with an initial 5 episodes. We intend on releasing 1 new episode per week for the next 52 weeks. This podcast is set up with 5 different series. We will start out with the first series discussing the 12 reasons why you should invest in mobile home parks. After that, we will dive into the second series on how you can invest in mobile home parks. And this will be specific, and we'll discuss the different avenues available to passive investors. In the third series, we will cover what to look for when investing in mobile home parks. This will review more property-specific details that you should know and look out for on a micro level. This will also give you insights into whether an operator's pro forma is conservative or not. This series will be useful for those investors interested in investing in property-specific mobile home park syndications. We will follow that series up with the fourth series on how to vet an operator, and this series will help you differentiate between a good operator and a great operator in the mobile home park space. The final series of the podcast will be our interview series. And in this series, we're going to interview a ton of absolute rock stars in the mobile home park industry. This will include a real estate CPA, a securities attorney, and multiple experienced passive investors so we can learn from their mistakes. In addition to those interviews, we plan on interviewing fund managers of mobile home parks and mobile home park syndicators so we can complete deal reviews and also show you the general partner fees so you can see both sides of the coin. I promise you guys one thing, you will take away golden nuggets of information from every single episode. And these nuggets will help accelerate the learning curve to investing passively in mobile home parks. One goal of this podcast is to be like the Britannica Encyclopedia for your future use. So feel free to take your time going through it and come back to reference it as needed. Before I let you go, please hit the subscribe button to get locked in and set up to receive all of the great information this podcast has in store. All right, it was great meeting all of you. I look forward to seeing you over in episode 1. Thank you so much for tuning in.